Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oop, whew, I couldn't think of any nicer place to spend my birthday morning with.
It's my birthday. That's my
birthday.
birthday too. It's my birthday today.
Oh, happy
My birthday, my
birthday!
Yeah.
Who sing happy birthday?
Yeah.
So, my talk title is The Gospel According to Amy. And I thought it would be a fun way of looking at our principle number 3. I think I create. That we create by the measure of our thoughts. It's a law of mind action. Our thoughts and our actions and our feelings create the world that we live in. So I want to start with a quote from Marianne Williamson. Can I take this off?
It's gonna pop.
Okay, it's just that it's
There you go.
it's kind of
You're intimidated by that. It's too big.
Yeah.
it's like
Yes.
but it's all good. All right. So I want to start with one of my favorite quotes from Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine so that other people, we are all meant to shine as children do. We are born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we give ourselves permission to let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So it's quite a process when you're asked for a talk title. And I've often joked that it's the gospel according to Amy. And the more I thought about it, the more the idea grew on me and brought a smile to my face. And I felt both freeing and a little audacious at the same time. Like, who am I to make such a proclamation, right? And, well, divine, of course. I am a child of the universe. And I thought because it was my birthday, that I'd give myself a little permission to have a little free reign today. So the third unity principle again is that I think or I create, that our thoughts have creative power to influence events and determine circumstances, which is the law of mind action. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. So I'm going to share some of my wisdom today that I've gained over the years as a true student. And I'm also here to remind you that you are the writer of your own gospel. So why? Like I said, why? I always like to talk about what, why, and how when I give a talk. So it is my birthday, and so I have been feeling a little reflective. I think we forget, myself included, that we hold the pen. We get caught up sometimes in this great big world of appearances. And I would also say emotions. That sometimes in the course of my life, I have given away my power and put the pen in other people's hands, or opinions, or that race consciousness. Anyone else ever feel stuck?
Yeah.
Yeah. When we are deep in winter, it can be hard to convince ourselves that spring is right around the corner. As Maya Angelou reminded me this morning as I was driving in the pouring rain to get here, and I see this beautiful sun now, that every storm runs out of rain. Every storm runs out of rain. Jim Blake, the CEO of Unity World Headquarters, said this. He said, "Each new day is a new opportunity to remake ourselves. Too often we carry the events and the days and the weeks or the years of our past as shackles or some sort of restriction of who we can be today. Each new day is an opportunity to remake ourselves in any aspect of our lives. In our minds, in our bodies, or spirits, we can and be and do something totally different regardless of what has occurred in the past. What happened before today is over and cannot be changed. So let us use this day and these moments to release the burdens of limiting ideas from our past and to be open to the idea that we can be whoever or whatever we want to be today and going forward." And as I know that that is true for us, I know that it is also true of the world that we live in. Right? Even in the midst of all of that is going on in this world around us, I know that there is light, and then we can bring that light, that all things are possible with God, and that things can shift and change. And it begins with us. So Myrtle Fillmore states that, "Remember that you cannot enter the kingdom of mind weighed down and piled high with old burdens or false notions and prejudices." So I'm going to go a little geeky here. The Gospels were most likely not written by the disciples of Jesus. Ever notice that there's no author, about the author section? We also, right, that we need to account for the cultural context in which the Gospels are written and the intention behind each of the Gospels. I remember when I was still taking my spiritual enrichment education classes before becoming an LUT. We were studying, Marcus Borg has a book called Reading the Bible as If for the First Time. He's a professor of religion at Oregon State University. And I remember Tom Polini and I were taking that class together. And as we were reading about the cultural context and the intention of the gospel writers and all of that, the two of us were like, we'd hear, "And Jesus said," and we'd be like, "Well, maybe." And it really shifted things for us for a while. We were just like, and yet, it's still worthwhile. It's still words that we can take into our hearts and mind and work with. So see, in our own Gospels that we write, it's important to consider the context and the culture of our lives up until now. To utilize our power, one of our 12 powers, our power of understanding. Awareness is key. We can't shift what we aren't aware of or that we refuse to look at. We also have our power of release, elimination or renunciation that serves us by helping us to forgive ourselves and others. Howard Falco, in his new book, which I brought with me today, I love Howard. He wrote a book called Invincible, The Mindset of Infinite Potential and the Secret to Unbeatable Success. He's written a couple of books, and I'm going to share an I am statement that I've done before, but I always find it very healing during meditation. I love Howard because he's just this very quiet kind of guy that's made a big difference in a lot of people's lives. But he wrote, "There is no limitation on who you really are. This concept may contradict what you have thought or believed for years. It doesn't make it any less true. What is true is your unlimited nature in this moment." See, we're unbound, but we're not bound by anything that has happened in the past. for ourselves and for this world. We're not bound by that. You know, I remember when I first started speaking, I could barely get out my own name. And I remember how my knees used to shake. I'd be up there, my kneecaps would be shaking. And I thought, I'll never be able to do this. I'll never be able to get up and speak in front of other people. Who do I think I am? Yeah, it takes time and practice, and it takes a lot of courage to get up and speak in front of people. So we're not bound by who we were in the past, but who we decide to be right here and right now. So, how do we do this, right? Well, in the Gospel of Amy, there are no shoulds. Only an invitation to be aware and to unconditionally love ourselves. The great philosopher Socrates stated that an unexamined life is not worth living. It serves us to spend some time reflecting on our journey. Sometimes we need the help of a therapist or a life coach to support us, or a spiritual community, as Iris was talking about this morning, right? And to help us to better understand ourselves and the decisions we made and the actions that we have taken. You know, journaling is a great tool as well to help us gain clarity. One piece of advice that I have is that to ask lots of questions of yourself and others. You know, watch your self-talk. As the line in the Pink song Perfect goes, change the voices in your head, make them like you instead. And I know that you guys are really big on the 4 agreements to not make assumptions. I've shared the story before, but I always love to share it because it's always about a matter of our perceptions and how we view the world. So there's a couple, and they move into a neighborhood. And the woman is noticing that her neighbor is hanging out her line, that her clothes look terrible. She's like, gosh, she really needs to change her laundry detergent or something. Her clothes look terrible. They're dull. And, you know, she continues with this lament, and the next day, she's still, I don't know what she's doing, but her clothes look terrible hanging on the line. What is she using for detergent? And then the next, a couple of weeks go by, and she's like, says to her husband, you're not going to believe it. She finally changed her detergent. Her clothes look great that are hanging on the line. And her husband says to her, I got up early this morning and I washed our windows. Right. Sometimes we need to reflect, right? We need to challenge our own assumptions about things and people and places and circumstances in our lives, and even our own self. Are we still telling us an old story that is no longer serving us? Because if we're telling ourselves that we are limited in any way, we are telling ourselves a lie. If we're telling ourselves we're limited in any way, we're telling ourselves a lie. And we can always shift that to remind ourselves of the truth and hang out with people and search out people that will remind you of the truth when you forget. Practice the power of the pause. There's an acronym that goes along with that, which is HALT, and it stands for hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. If you're ever feeling any of those things, the best idea is to halt. Before you make any decisions, before you speak to anyone, before you go shopping. That's for myself. But any of that is to just halt, to breathe, to remind ourselves of the truth. Maybe have a snack. and then make a choice. Pray without ceasing. Establish a regular prayer practice and pray for yourself daily, and your life will change. And that I can honestly say is true. Pray for yourself daily. How many of you, I know that so many of us pray for other people, but how many of you pray for yourself? Like when we hand out those prayer request forms, are you putting your name on there? Because a lot of times we think it's kind and noble to pray for others, and yet if we're on a plane, the first thing they tell you is to put the oxygen mask on your own face so that you can be available for others. And what I will say is that prayer has changed my life, and I pray for myself daily. And sometimes those prayers are, I sob through them. Some days I'm excited and I'm alive, but they have changed my life, because I remind myself that God is everywhere present, that there is no spot that God is not. I remind myself if God is everywhere present, then God is fully present right here, right now, in and through and as me, and in and through as all of us. For there is no spot that God is not. And it has taught me so much about order, that those days when it's mucky out, or in the winter when it's gross and dirty and mucky, I know that so much is happening that brings the spring, and the spring can't happen if the winter doesn't happen too. And the more that I can correlate that with everything that goes on in the world around me, when I can know that even though when things look dark, that there's a whole system of divine intelligence at work that I might not be aware of. And so I can hold at this perfect order, even in what's going on in the world around us right now. Meditate. Not just to bliss out or to tune out, but to tune in so you can tune out, if that makes sense. A lot of times people want to bliss out in meditation, but if we sit in the silence, a lot of times the answers and the things that we have to any issue or circumstances will come to us. I remember years ago when something had happened to my car, and I had come home. I had to walk home after barely making it into the garage parking lot, because every little light that could possibly light up on my car's engine was lighting up. And it was just one of those times in my life, my rent had just gone up, all different things. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what's wrong with my car? And it was a hot, humid day like today, and I had to walk up 2 hills to get home. And I was frantic, right? So I poured myself a glass of water, and I sat there, and I'm I'm going to drink this water in small sips. I'm going to meditate, and I'm going to pray. And as soon as I did that, a divine solution for whatever my car was going to cost came to me. So spend time in the silence and meditation. And I would say to speak up and out, but first do your own inner work. But I think it's important that we speak out and we speak up. And comparison is the thief of joy, and that is a statement that comes from the Dalai Lama. But my former minister, Ogun Holder, used to say it to me all the time, which always annoyed me, but it's so true, that we are individualized expressions, and comparisons don't create oneness. When we're comparing ourselves with another, or our circumstances, or our lives, or why does she have this and I don't, or why do I have this? But when we're in that place of comparison, we're actually creating almost like a duality, and we're forgetting our oneness. Isn't it awesome that we're all a little different, right? That we all have our unique gifts to bring to this world that is around us. And realize that one chapter does not a book make. Make your gospel a love story, and stay open to plot twists. Stay open to plot twists. Because even in the midst of some things that are going on, I know that God is everywhere present, that good can come out of even the darkest of circumstances and situations. And that we can transform and transcend anything. So I want to bring this into a time of meditation. So I just... And I'm going to do a reading that comes from Howard Falco in his book, I Am. And as we say these I Am statements, let us say it for ourselves, but let us also say it for the world around us. So in this moment, I grant myself permission to be open and to embrace a new idea of who I am. I take responsibility for the decisions in my life that have led me to this sacred moment. I choose to do this without any guilt, shame, or regret, understanding that for each moment of my existence, I have done the best that I could have at that particular moment. I understand that everyone is doing the best that he or she can in his or her own way for daily survival, just like me. And while I may not condone some of the actions that I or others have taken previously, or choose them again, I will draw upon the wisdom gained from these experiences to make new, more empowered choices now. I am learning that every experience that I have gone through during my entire life has served me in some way. Therefore, I choose to accept and be grateful for everything and everyone in my life that is allowing me to learn the lessons that I've brought to myself. I understand that in each moment, the elegant universe is always presenting me with exactly what I need to learn and accept about my situation in order for me to move closer to the experiences that I truly desire. I am worthy of peace, happiness, and a vision of my life I imagine for myself. I now realize that any idea of personal imperfection, lack, or limitation is an illusion. This is an illusion that I no longer choose to maintain and to live my life by, but rather I choose to set myself free to a new life of unlimited possibility. I am not who I was 10 years ago, a week ago, or even 5 minutes ago. I am who I decide to be right now. This is my greatest power. And while I may have new learning experiences along the way to what I ultimately want to achieve, I will eventually succeed because I have now awakened to fully honor, respect, and have faith in the true power of love and creative perfection that I am. And now let's just take some moments in the silence.
Videos froze.
Okay.
So before we come back, we take just a moment to remember the everywhere presentness of God, Source, Spirit, by whatever name we call it. Knowing that it is the everywhere presentness of love, of intelligence, of order, of beauty, of life. It is that divine hum, that catalytic energy that is intrinsic in the vast and in the minuscule. It is pure potentiality. It is infinite possibility. And by glorious and reasonable deduction, we know that in its everywhere presentness, it is present right here, right now, and in through and as us, that we are love, that we are intelligence, that we are life, that we are pure potentiality, and we are infinite possibility. And the more that we accept this truth, the more that we remember this truth, the easier it is to let go of any self-deprecating thoughts, any sense of littleness. The easier it becomes to not be weighed down by opinions, to not be weighed down by anything that is happening outside of us in this world, in this country. Because we know that everything comes to pass, that everything there is a cycle and a season for is coming to pass right here and right now. We know that we have the power within us that is so much greater than any storm, so much greater than any conflict. We remember the truth of who we are as beloved children of God. And we know that for ourselves, and we know that for the world around us. For those who are experiencing devastation or loss. We know that the light of God surrounds them, the love of God enfolds them, the power of God protects them, and the presence of God watches over them. That wherever they are, God is. And so it is. And when you're ready, you can come back into this room. Stretch your arms. So it is.